The financial shortcut nobody wants to take. Most people are looking for a financial shortcut. A faster way to earn more. A smarter investment. A better opportunity that finally changes everything. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The real shortcut almost nobody takes isn't faster. It isn't exciting, and it doesn't feel rewarding at first. In fact, most people actively avoid it. They work harder instead. They chase promotions. They look for side income. They stay busy, productive, and exhausted, believing that movement equals progress. Yet years go by, and financial pressure never fully disappears. Income may rise, but freedom doesn't. Stress changes shape, but it doesn't go away. That's because the shortcut that actually changes outcomes doesn't look like success in the moment. It looks like restraint, patience, and uncomfortable honesty. And that's why so few people ever take it. For most people, the idea of a financial shortcut sounds unrealistic. Life feels too expensive, too busy, too demanding for shortcuts to exist. Bills arrive every month. Work takes up most of the week. Responsibilities don't pause just because you want more freedom. So the default assumption becomes simple. The only way forward is to push harder. That belief is incredibly common in the US and the UK. When money feels tight, people work longer hours, chase promotions, add side income, or take on more responsibility. And at first, it seems reasonable. More income usually does make life feel easier. At least temporarily. There's relief, less immediate stress, a sense that progress is happening. But over time, something strange occurs. The pressure comes back, expenses rise quietly, commitments grow. What once felt like flexibility turns into obligation. Even though income increased, the margin never really did. Life becomes more expensive to maintain, not easier to control. This is why the idea of a financial shortcut matters more than people think. Most financial frustration isn't caused by laziness or poor decisions. It's caused by effort being applied in the wrong direction for too long. People optimize for earning without questioning what that earning is actually building. Many working professionals are doing everything right on paper. They're responsible, they're consistent, they're productive, yet their financial lives feel fragile. Taking a break feels risky. Changing direction feels irresponsible. Even good opportunities can feel stressful because they disrupt cash flow. That's the hidden cost of missing the shortcut. When progress is defined only by income, freedom gets postponed indefinitely. People stay busy maintaining a system instead of improving their position within it. Years pass, not because nothing is happening, but because the wrong things are compounding. Understanding this early matters because the longer a structure runs unexamined, the heavier it becomes to change. The shortcut isn't about speed, it's about direction, and most people never stop long enough to ask whether their direction is actually taking them where they want to go. The reason most people never take the financial shortcut isn't because it's hidden. It's because it directly conflicts with how they've been trained to think about progress, effort, and responsibility. From an early age, financial success is framed around visible effort. You show up, you work hard, you stay busy, you move up gradually. This logic carries into adulthood, where income becomes the primary signal of whether you're doing well. More money means more success. Less money means something is wrong. It's a simple framework, and that's why it sticks. The problem is that this mindset rewards activity, not outcomes. It encourages people to focus on how much they're doing instead of what that effort actually produces over time. As long as income increases and bills are paid, the system feels like it's working. There's no obvious reason to question it. Another reason the shortcut is ignored is psychological. Shortcuts are often associated with risk, laziness, or cutting corners. Doing less feels irresponsible in a culture that praises hustle. Slowing down to think feels unproductive. Choosing simplicity over expansion can feel like falling behind, even when it's strategically smarter. There's also the comfort factor. Familiar routines provide emotional safety, even if the system is limiting. It's predictable. The idea of changing direction introduces uncertainty. And uncertainty feels dangerous when you have obligations to meet. So instead of questioning the structure, people double down on maintaining it. Over time, this creates a trap. Income rises, but dependency rises with it. More effort is required just to stay in place. And because nothing breaks suddenly, the cost remains invisible. People don't realize they're avoiding the shortcut, they think they're being responsible. The truth is, the shortcut doesn't feel efficient at first. It feels slower, quieter, and less rewarding in the short term. And that's exactly why most people walk past it, convinced the harder road is the only real one. The financial shortcut nobody wants to take isn't about earning faster. It's about changing what your effort is building before you exhaust yourself trying to build more. Most people assume the fastest way forward is intensity, longer hours, more responsibility, higher income, but intensity without direction only accelerates whatever structure you're already in. If your life depends entirely on constant effort, working harder just deepens that dependency. The shortcut is stepping back early enough to redesign the structure instead of reinforcing it. That redesign starts with a different question. Not, how can I make more money? But, what would reduce my dependence on constant effort? This is where progress shifts from activity to leverage. Instead of pouring all energy into short-term output, you begin allocating effort toward things that retain value when you stop pushing. In practical terms, this looks less dramatic than people expect. It means using stable income as a tool rather than a finish line. Building skills that compound instead of tasks that reset every week. Investing consistently, even when it feels boring and slow. Creating systems, financial, professional, or personal, that don't collapse the moment you step away. Another part of the shortcut is resisting automatic expansion. When income rises, the default move is to upgrade life immediately. Better housing, higher fixed costs, more obligations. The shortcut is delaying that instinct. Not forever, but long enough to preserve flexibility. Every fixed expense you avoid today lowers the pressure you'll feel tomorrow. This approach often feels unsatisfying at first. Progress isn't visible. There's no instant relief or validation. You may even feel like you're falling behind peers who appear to be moving faster. But underneath that discomfort, something important is happening. You're reducing fragility. You're creating margin. You're buying time without paying for it with burnout. That's why this path is ignored. It doesn't feel like winning early on. It feels patient, restrained, almost boring. But over time, the math changes. Effort compounds instead of disappearing. Pressure eases instead of accumulating. And without realizing it, you've taken a shortcut most people never even consider. The real impact of taking this financial shortcut doesn't show up quickly. That delay is exactly why most people dismiss it. In the short term, life often looks the same. You still go to work. You still earn money. You still pay bills and handle responsibilities. From the outside, there's no obvious sign that anything has changed. But over time, the difference becomes structural. When people continue chasing speed and intensity, life gradually becomes more rigid. Higher income supports higher fixed costs. More obligations fill the calendar. Time becomes pre-committed before it even arrives. At first, this feels like progress, but eventually, it creates a fragile system where everything depends on momentum continuing. Any disruption, a job change, a health issue, a family need, feels threatening. Not because it's catastrophic, but because there's no margin. This is how financial pressure quietly compounds. Not as panic, but as constraint. Decisions feel heavier. Career moves feel riskier. Even rest can feel uncomfortable. Because stepping back threatens the entire structure. Many people reach this stage earning more than ever, yet feeling less free than before. By contrast, when effort is redirected early toward leverage and flexibility, the long-term experience looks very different. Progress feels slower at first, sometimes frustratingly so. There's less visible reward, fewer external signals of success. But beneath the surface, resilience is building. Skills deepen, assets grow quietly, fixed costs remain manageable, income becomes less fragile because it's supported by more than just presence and effort. Over time, pressure moves in the opposite direction. Decisions feel lighter. Uncertainty becomes tolerable. The future stops feeling like something that must be constantly defended. This is where time becomes the most powerful advantage. Consistency matters more than intensity. Direction matters more than speed. Small decisions, repeated over years, reshape what's possible. not dramatically, but durably. Financial freedom in this context isn't about luxury or avoiding work entirely. It's about optionality, the ability to slow down without panic, to adjust direction without everything breaking, to say no when necessary. Those outcomes aren't created by one big move. They're the result of quiet discipline applied long before the payoff is obvious. That's the part most people underestimate. The shortcut doesn't feel fast, but over decades, it changes everything. What makes this financial shortcut so difficult to accept isn't that it's complicated. It's that it doesn't feel urgent. There's no deadline forcing action, no crisis demanding change. Life usually feels manageable enough to keep going exactly as it is. And that's why most people never take it. People don't avoid this path because they're lazy or incapable. They avoid it because the early stages offer very little emotional reward. Choosing patience over speed doesn't feel productive. Choosing flexibility over comfort doesn't look impressive. Choosing direction over intensity doesn't earn immediate validation. In a world that celebrates visible progress, this kind of discipline feels almost invisible. Most people wait for pressure to make the decision for them. They wait until money feels tight, until work feels unbearable, until options feel limited. But by the time urgency shows up, the cost of change is much higher. What once required small adjustments now demands major sacrifices. That's when people say they should have started earlier. The truth is, there is no perfect moment where this shortcut suddenly feels easy. There is no stage of life where slowing down feels fully comfortable. Growth always competes with convenience, and convenience always argues that tomorrow will be a better time to think long-term. The people who benefit most from this approach don't feel confident when they start. They feel uncertain. They don't have everything figured out. They simply stop drifting. They start asking different questions. Not, how can I earn more right now? But, what is my effort actually building over time? Not, does this feel good today? But, does this make my future lighter or heavier? That shift changes how money is experienced. Income stops being something that constantly needs to be defended. Work stops being the only source of stability. Decisions stop feeling rushed. Life becomes less reactive, not because everything is solved, but because fewer things are fragile. This isn't about rejecting ambition or playing small. It's about aiming correctly. Speed without direction just leads to exhaustion. Intensity without structure just creates dependency. The real shortcut is alignment, making sure effort, income, and time are all pointing toward the same long-term outcome. Most people never take this shortcut because it doesn't feel like one. It feels slower, quieter, less exciting, but over years, it compounds in ways that hustle never can. So the real question isn't whether this path works. It's whether continuing to do what feels busy, familiar, and acceptable will still feel acceptable 10 or 20 years from now. And that question, once you stop avoiding it, tends to answer itself.